Knowing how to invest your money is harder than ever before. Dealing with stock market volatility, record debt, and terrorist attacks requires new thinking. At U.S. Asset Management, we can help you see the world more clearly so that you can move beyond the chaos and invest with confidence. Call us, visit us online, or drop by our office. U.S. Asset Management, helping you make better decisions with your money.
Your government doesn't care about you. That's why you need a medical emergency kit. It contains life-saving medications like ivermectin, Z-Pak, and antibiotics. Stock them before they block them.
Press. And one of those books, which is there on our joint venture with History of Books, is a book on Princess Anastasia. And I'm going to bring in the author now, John Froebel-Parker, who's my colleague. We've had on before, but people may not know you. Tell us what the book is about, John. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Todd. It's always a pleasure and always an honor. You know, this has been part of my research for over 20 years now to figure out the true story behind the woman alias Evgenia Smetysko, buried in a Russian Orthodox monastery with a monarchistic twist, this particular monastery, with her pseudonym, Evgenia Smetysko, but strangely with the date of birth of Anastasia Romanov on her grave. And many, many clues along the way. For example, I'll give you a few, which will be a teaser to future readers. When she died, she gave an annuity in perpetuity to the monastery, to the museum, which you and I spoke about, the kind of money that she would have had in principle to generate the interest is extraordinary. No imposter would be able to have that money. Also, many Romanov objects, objets d'art, and many of them received from none other than Charles Sidney Gibbs, the imperial tutor from Great Britain. Why, at his death, did he give her, or make sure that she received this invaluable collection? Most of it is now in the museum at the monastery. So these are a few of the tidbits, the nuggets in the book that really support her claim that she was Anastasia Romanov. And I should insert here that I spoke to the pastor of the church that she went to in Newport, Rhode Island, who said, John, up until the day she died, she wanted everybody to know that she was indeed the last daughter, the youngest daughter of Tsar Nicholas II. She was Grand Duchess Anastasia, and that is how she died.
Let me just show, this is something that came out a while back on the first time we published this. This has been a republishing. That's her.
Yes.
But I wanted to show the facial recognition that you did. Is this the correct photo?
Well, okay, this is one of the photos, and let me prep that by saying this is a 2D face-by-face, face-to-face analysis. But this is even more astounding, because what we're looking at is the 62-year-old Evgenia Smetysko, that's her pseudonym, next to Empress Alexandra, who was the mother of Anastasia Romanov. Now, it makes sense that Anastasia Romanov would be such an exact match with the Empress, but not an imposter. So we can discount almost from this simple analysis that she's an imposter. She's definitely the daughter of Empress Alexandra.
Wow. You contacted me also, and you told me about some paintings that the monastery had given you, and they were all signed in a certain way that were hers. Am I correct?
Well, this is true, because when she gave the Romanov collection to the monastery museum,
Mhm.
They culled out certain pieces of art which they figured were not really meant for the museum because in their mind it was painted by an 80 or 90-year-old woman who was a little off her rocker, shall we say, was
Mhm.
not really the Grand Duchess, but a nice lady. So what were they going to do with paintings by a little old lady that was not in their mind Anastasia Romanov? And so I acquired them, and they're in my collection, most of
Yeah.
them still. And they were signed OTMA, OTMA, and of course, that's the acronym for Olga, Tatiana, Maria, Anastasia, when they would do projects together, including embroidery.
Amazing.
Mhm.
So another clue. But the money's the big one, right? She was a clerk in an antique store her whole life. I think you told me, and she
Or
left.
a milliner too, yeah, a hat maker.
Yeah, and she left a lot of serious money, FU money, they would say, to the monastery. And
Yes.
where would she get those funds, right? Other than having, and I guess the story or the theory is that somehow the American intelligence services got her out of Russia. She was injured in the basement, or was injured and then brought back to health with some local partisans, I guess, right? And is
Who,
that
who, who according to her, used the gems which were sewn into her corset to sort of bribe her way across the border and out of Bolshevik control.
wow?
Yeah.
Amazing story. So, what are you working on now? You've always got something going. I think you told me about a perfume line, right?
Well, yes. And before I go to the perfume line, though, I should mention to you this is brand new within the last 24 hours. The museum that she endowed is having an exhibition, and they have a beautiful uh, antique icon there with an oclada, which is made out of gold and silver. And they're calling it the icon of Anastasia.
Hmm.
And when you read the description, it says this was given to us by the lady known as Evgenia Smetisco, who purported to be Anastasia. The first time that I can remember that the monastery has given her any credit. But it
Hmm.
is odd that they say it's the icon of Anastasia, which makes me think that she's going through a kind of rehabilitatia, a kind of rehabilitation to introduce to the public that she really didn't die and in 1918, but lived to the ripe old age of almost 97 years old.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's not young.
No.
Um, well, what? Let's stay on the book. Anything else you want to get out there before we
Oh,
move
well,
on?
well, thank you. Yes, Grand Duchess Anastasia, still a mystery, inspired me to create a new unisex perfume line with
Hmm.
a Russian perfumer who had moved into my hometown in upstate New York. I said, his name is Viktor Rakovich, Press Perfumery. I said, Victor, I really want people to experience Imperial Russia, not just through the written word, but through olfactory art.
Hmm.
Can we create something with scents that are typical of the Russian Empire? And I'll give you a little bit of a secret. One of those things are Russian currants that would be appeal to men and would appeal to women. He said that's
Interesting.
perfect because in the royal court they didn't necessarily distinguish between feminine scents and male scents, but a scent of what class you were in. Of course,
Interesting.
women and men could create their own scents, of course. So we did create one, and we came up with a title of Imperial Mystery,
Ah,
Imperskaya Taina. And,
very cool.
and this will be out very soon. I hope your readers or our readers will enjoy it. And we'll get more about how to order that when it comes out. But let me tell you one thing quickly, Todd.
Sure.
You know that everybody who's helped me on this project has turned out to be related through my mother, right?
Yes, I
We've
know.
done
You're
DNA
a
tests, whether they came,
genealogist.
what's
Yeah,
that?
you're a genealogist.
A genealogist. I forgot to mention that. That's right. And, these are people from a Jewish friend whose family was from Berdichev near Kiev. She took the test. She's the artist who did the artwork on the front. My mother's fourth cousin. Friends whose families are from Naples, they took the test, also related. The Mexican restaurant owner who let me do my reception in the restaurant takes the test, a very close cousin. So I tell this to the Russian perfumer in my village, and he said, "Oh, ha ha, John, I'm sure that I will be your relative too." He takes the test, Viktor Rakovich, a Russian from Kazakhstan, and he's my mother's genetically second cousin.
Wow.
So
the plot thickens.
The plot thickens, right.
What are you working on now, John, besides the perfume? You got another book coming? Or?
Well, I just published a new book right now called Grandpa Lamberton and, and the Great Ship of Ghosts, about your beloved Connecticut, New Haven, Connecticut. George Lamberton, who appeared in The Phantom Ship, which Henry Wadsworth Longfellow writes about. He was my 9th great-grandfather, and it really always inspired me to think beyond what we perceive as reality, and that's just come out.
Outstanding. And so where can people get that book?
It's on Amazon. It's on all online book shops. Grandpa Lamberton and the Great Ship of Ghosts.
Well, you are one heck of a historian and a genealogist, and I always learn something when I'm talking to you. And you're always welcome for coffee back if you're in the area. But look forward to seeing you again sometime.
Good. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care.